Thank you very much, Mr Acting Deputy President. Well, for so many people, becoming an Australian citizen is confirmation of their place in this country. And for so many people, this is a real milestone in their lives. Becoming a citizen is something that makes them feel welcome. It makes them feel like they're a respected member of our society and our community. It acknowledges that Australia is their home and Australia is somewhere they belong. And for many people, it'll be the first home they've ever had, and for others, it'll be the only one they ever know. There are many thousands of men, women and children who are permanent residents of Australia but not yet citizens. They're studying, they're working, they're raising their families, they're raising their kids. Kids who are permanent residents of Australia but not yet citizens. And right across the country, these people are contributing to our society and our community. And they hold citizenship up as a beacon. And they're desperate to take that final step towards belonging, to being part of this beautiful country. But they've been given a kick in the guts recently when the Liberals chose to change the rules without any notice. When the Liberals chose to increase the length of time that people have to be permanent residents before they can apply for Australian citizenship from 1 year to 4 years. And other changes around language tests and values tests, in which there are echoes of a White Australia policy which used language tests to set people up to fail and to prevent them from becoming Australian citizens. And since the government made that announcement, the Australian Greens have received hundreds of emails and phone calls from people who are worried about their future. And I want to share just a small number of those stories tonight with my colleagues here in the Senate, because I've got no doubt that Mr Dutton and Mr Turnbull and other Liberal senators are receiving the same or very similar calls and emails, but we're not hearing anything about those. I've changed the names of those people, by the way, because, to be frank, I don't trust Minister Dutton not to get vindictive towards people who criticise him. Here's one from Joe. My wife, my 2 children and I have worked hard to contribute to this society. Over the past 5 years, we've considered ourselves as Australian in every daily activity and look forward to our children to carry on this legacy as Australian citizens, promoting the benefits of this society at home and abroad. The new proposed policy runs counter to the open, multicultural melting pot that we were drawn to. The new proposed policy asks my family and others like us to spend 4 more years to, in inverted commas, prove that we're worthy of becoming citizens, despite paying taxes, helping our neighbours, supporting the economy, hiring other Australians into my organisation and encouraging my children to proudly claim Australia as their home. Here's Matt, who's studying for a PhD. I chose Australia due to it being multicultural and ease of communication with local community because I can't speak German and am quite fluent in English. But the main reason of choosing Australia was to get settled here, because in my home country you don't get the freedom to openly express your views. Why do I need Australian citizenship? Asks Matt. One reason is to feel secure and the ability to speak freely, and another reason is to avoid a situation where I've felt quite helpless or people taking advantage of me just because I'm not an Australian citizen. Here's Jill. Jill's from Scotland. I was granted permanent residency 1 year ago. It was a great day. For 2 days last month, I was eligible to apply for citizenship and had planned to complete my application the following weekend. Unfortunately, The next day I became ineligible due to the government's new regulations to qualify for citizenship. I now have to wait for another 3 years. Jill goes on, I've committed to a life here. I have a job I love, great friends, a life full of sport and socialising, and I can't help but take it personally that the Australian government has moved the goalposts without warning. It really does make me question the values of the country that I so want to make my home. Living on different visas for nearly 6 years creates a life of uncertainty, a feeling that disappeared when I became a permanent resident. Here's Louisa. I'm an Australian-born citizen, but my husband has been here for the past 8 years, working, studying, paying taxes, buying property and speaking English better than me. He was due for citizenship in 3 weeks. However, that's been pushed to 3 years under the new laws. We're appalled and upset as we had our life plans. Here's Caitlin, who's been here for 6 years. I was due for my citizenship on March 7th. I started my application on the 18th of March but did not get to finish and send it off until the 20th of April when this shock announcement came out, as I have just had a baby. I'm married to an Australian, my son is an Australian, I have many Australian friends. I join in with Australian celebrations and memorials. How can the LNP just rip my citizenship from me when I have done everything asked of me? I will be here 9 years before I get citizenship now. Then there's Danny, who applied for citizenship with his family on the 15th of March 2017. And Danny tells a story that I don't have time to go into in detail here about an error that was made in their application, and that they had to correct their application and were then told that because of the timing of the error and the correction, that their application was rejected. They were now subject, therefore, to the new announcement and would need to wait another 3 years to apply for citizenship. Well, those people, Danny, Louisa, Jill, Matt, Joe, and hundreds of others, are distressed and devastated by what's happened. People who have spent years building their lives, rebuilding their lives in Australia, have had the door slammed shut in their faces. And why has this happened? Because Peter Dutton, the Minister for Immigration, and Malcolm Turnbull, the Prime Minister, along with their Liberal colleagues, have chosen to try to remake Australia in their own image. They want the citizenship laws to reflect their own bigotry and prejudice towards people who've decided to try and make Australia their home. They want to cast a pall of suspicion over those who weren't born here. They are part of a small and shrinking minority of small-mindedness in this country. But the actions that they are taking, the actions they choose to take, risk taking Australia away from some of the very things that made this country so great, away from the multicultural, harmonious society so beloved of so many Australians, and towards a fearful world, a frightened world, a small world that is beloved by some in the Liberal Party. But those values are actually not genuine Australian values. Australians are open-minded. Australians are fair. Australians support freedom and choice. And Australians are welcoming. Australians see the best in others, and Australians want other people to succeed, not to fail. They want to help people join our community, not slam the door in their face and set up artificial barriers that stop them in their tracks before they've had a chance.